uh, whether we are trying to help our nation to attain sustainable development with the development of a healthy human capital for the nation. No, since we are trying to talk about sustainable development, there are certain specific SDGs. Of course, as all of us are aware, there are about 17 SDGs. So, what are those, specific SDGs which, probably policy has to consider to ensure that there would be, well-being in terms of human capital, and that promotes sustainable development. My focus is on two specific SDGs. Of course, that would also indirectly touch upon many other SDGs as well. But my key focus is on two specific SDGs, no, rather three specific SDGs. Number one is SDG number 3 that talks about health. SDG number 4 that talks about education, and SDG number 8 that talks about gainful employment. So, I would be referring to this because we are talking about human capital. Of late, there is a growing dilemma whether the demography is a dividend or a disaster, particularly in a country like India. So, before getting into this dilemma, probably over the next 5 minutes, let us try to set the context and the tone for the discussion on this dilemma, whether the demography what do we have in India is really proving to be a dividend, or whether it also has a risk of probably becoming a disaster for the nation as well. So, when we our economy currently, as all of us are very well aware, that we have been growing stronger, and as far as our standing in the global economy is concerned, we are now become fourth largest economy in terms of the nominal GDP, by crossing $4 trillion. And very soon we are going to be, in another 1.5 years, we will be the third largest economy. So, the growth journey from 1947, 1950 to 1990, that was one phase of the growth, what we had seen, more of a socialistic approach, probably, a growth which was at a moderate rate, which probably it is being called as a Hindu rate of growth. So we had a moderate growth with the socialistic measures and actions between 1950 and 1990. But, as all of us are very well aware, that the transition had happened in the year 1991, and thereafter with the, breakthrough policy revolution in terms of new economic reforms, with the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, where the government, tried to bring in lot of reforms in different sectors, and where the engagement of government in production, in distribution, and its regulations have started coming down, and it started, opening more and more to the private sector, more and more to the global sector. Well, so this is where India has started probably attaining the next level of growth since 1991. So the growth story of India before 91 and after 91, there is a very clear difference in that. So it is in this context that today, we are the fourth largest, biggest economy of the world, going to be the third one. And when we look into Indian economy, we are more resilient, we are more stable compared to many of the Western economies and many of the European economies. Just to give a couple of instances towards that, when there was a subprime lending crisis in 2008, and over the next 3 to 4 years, many of the countries including well-developed nations really struggled a lot, but impact on India and some of the Asian economies were much lesser. It took less than 2 years for India to recover from the onslaught of 2008 subprime lending crisis. And the same was the case of probably the COVID as well, that we had V-shaped recovery from the debacle of COVID-19. Right. So they are all very clearly indicating that in terms of the resilience, in terms of stability, we have that kind of immunity, and we can withstand the risks of global volatilities, and even against the geopolitical crisis, be it Russia-Ukraine war. We were the least affected in term, many of the countries got into initially inflation and later into deflation, slowly and gradually got into recession, but India was the least affected economy. Yes, that once again tries to help us to understand that over the period of time we have been building resilience. So in a way it is a good sign. Having said that, we have not yet attained the growth. We are on the path of becoming a developed economy. So long way to grow, but definitely we are on the right track. A lot more corrections to be done and a lot more to be achieved over the period of time. So now the question here is, who are the key drivers of the growth in the past few decades? So probably for me, the last 3 decades are the game changers. And during those periods, who really drove the economy and making us to become probably what we are today. So I have 3 important attributors for this current state of Indian economy. Number one, it is a physical capital. When I talk about physical capital, it is all about the economic infrastructure that we have built over the period of time, be it housing, be it the roads and the railways, be it other means of transportation, airports, the energy. So all other probably in the field of energy, in the field of housing, in the field of transportation, we have made tremendous probably growth, and that really contributes to the growth of the economy. Again, having said that, we are not in a position of very comfort in these areas. Always there is a like space for further growth. The second attributor, I would rather consider technology as a key driver of our economy. India is one among the global leaders who are taking technology to the next level. Application of the technologies at multiple sectors, so particularly digitization is concerned. In India is the global leader, particularly the financial technologies, be it the fintech and financial transactions are concerned. So we are the global leaders, and we are setting trend to the European economies, to the US and many others, where even today cash transaction is the order of the day. But in India, more than 35% of the transaction happens through the digital wallets. So it's a great transformation what we have seen over the period of time, and definitely that contributes to the growth of the economy as well. So the third important attributor of the current evolution of our economy is personally on to the human capital. So physical capital to technology to human capital. So we are a huge economy in terms of population. So China number one, India number two. Very, very soon we will be number one as far as the population is concerned, with more than 146 crores of population. We are a very heavily and hugely, very densely populated country in the world. Human population and human capital, there is a difference. So that human population is gradually being converted into capital, into asset, which gives us the dividend, which helps us in attaining returns and rewards. And that in a way is contributing to the growth of our economy. How that happens? So over the next probably 45 to 50 minutes or so, our discussion would be focusing more into that, how the huge population what do we have in our nation is translating into capital, making India attaining the dividend of the demography, And parallelly, what are the risks that are involved, and in what way it can also be becoming a disaster for the nation. So that is going to be the focus of the discussion. So one of the drivers of the growth is human capital, and we talk about the demography. Yes, we have very huge population. It is not just having huge population. It is not just having huge population. It is having very huge population wherein more than 65% of the population is youth. That makes the difference. That makes the difference. So that means that the dependents are less than 35%. Below 15 and above 60 to be considered as a dependents. So, that population is less than 35%. So this is something which is really contributing to the nation, and that presents a very positive a picture as far as the possibility of India utilizing that youth population for the growth. That means that we have a very huge working population. We have a very huge working population. More than half of the population is working population. In terms of total number, we have the largest in terms of size, the working population in the world. Now, it is not just the total population. It is not just the youth population. The youth population of today is becoming more educated. It is very critical. It is very critical. When we look at the literacy, we have moved from 16% to 75%. And even in terms of the gender perspective, of course there is a gender divide, but we do not have the latest census. But it is being said that it's about 65% in case of female and 85% in case of male. That is as far as the total population is concerned. But if we look at from age 1, probably age 5 to age 25, we can see a greater gender parity in terms of education. Rather, female education, particularly at a higher level and higher education, is much greater than that of the male education. So there is a transition and transformation that is happening in terms of education. It is a very positive trend that has been taking place, as far as the quality of population, quality of, the human beings, what we have in our nation. So this is what it converts. Human beings are becoming human resource, and that human resource, when it is utilized properly, that becomes a human capital. In turn, we are being able to get appropriate rewards, returns, and the dividend out of that. Another important aspect to be noted over here is the improved health aspects. Decade after decade, the health of our population is improving. There are multiple parameters to say that there is improved health. We can say that definitely there is a drastic fall in the death rate. It used to be a few decades ago 25%, and now it has come down drastically to about 6%. Very important is that the infant mortality rate has also fallen. It's about 30 per thousand, and which used to be about 165 per thousand. So there is improved health infrastructure, improved health facilities, improved health interventions. So across health facilities, health infrastructure, and as awareness as far as the health is concerned has improved. And it is again a very important, I would say, change or the dynamic what we can see in our demography. So all in all, it is not just a huge population. The population is youth. Population is getting educated. The population is more healthier. is more healthier. And this is something which creates a human resource. Population is becoming a resource. We are creating the human resource, which is in turn nothing but the human capital. Human capital. So how it is becoming a capital, and how are we attaining the dividend out of that? Huge work, the labor supply, the workforce supply. Of late, we have been having a lot of industries. More industries are coming up. When we compare ourselves with the Western world, we are not only meeting the workforce requirement for the domestic industries, domestic factories, and activities that are happening, economic engagements that are happening at the rural areas. We are now in a position to supply workforce for the global engagement as well. This is where many Indians are traveling abroad. You may call it a brain drain or whatever it is, it's okay. Apart from that, considering the quality manpower, quality labor supply, what do we have? Multinational companies are looking at India, and there is a huge outsourcing that is happening, and that in turn helps our economy to gain a lot. When we talk about a lot of companies, talk about JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, you talk about many other companies, KPMG, you talk about Deloitte, they are all getting a lot of projects getting outsourced by American companies, European companies, and there are many, even in tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are many IT companies which are receiving a lot of such outsourcing projects, creating lakhs and lakhs of employment. So one of the strengths of our population is that it is not just having huge population. The youth population, which is educated population, is now contributing to the workforce supply, contributing to the supply of the labor force, contributing the supply of the workforce. In a way, it is good. An economy, particularly a country like India, we are a consumer-driven economy, particularly of late. And it is again possible because of the huge population, particularly because of the huge youth population. When I say we are a consumer-driven economy, we are a demand-driven economy, it means that more than probably half of the growth what we have been achieving today comes or drawn from the consumption side of the economy. Large youth, very huge youth population, which is working, which is earning, and it is, the youth population, they have a mindset that they work, they earn, they spend. And this is where Indian markets are booming. This is where Indian market. So that attracts a lot of multinational companies to our market. So India is being considered as a vibrant market. We are considered as, highly sought after market in the globe. There is a gradual transition from China to India. So, the companies start believing that China market has reached saturation, and, India is now being considered as a best market because Indian market is vibrant with huge youth population, and the youth population is having more money now. There is a gradual economic shift that is taking place. So having more income at hand with more employment opportunities, our aspirational levels are shifting. We have moved from nothing to something in the past 3 decades. We were a backward economy. By 1991, we were a backward economy. And today we have become an emerging economy. And we are heading towards becoming a developed economy. So what does it mean? It means that, we had nothing. Now we have something. We are working. We have started earning decent income. With that, we are going to the market. We are buying a lot of things. Having said that, still there are a lot of unfulfilled aspirations. So India is considered to be an aspirational economy because lot of aspirations, particularly of the youth, right? Many wanted to buy cars, many wanted to buy houses, many wanted to buy a lot of electronic items. So a lot of aspirations are still unfulfilled. So this is being considered as an opportunity for the domestic manufacturers as well as the global, manufacturers to consider India as the best market. So this is where Indians are spending money. We are spending money. So our economy, our market is driven by consumption, demand. That has been saving us. That has been literally saving us. If India was least affected by 2008, subprime lending crisis, because we had a quick recovery of the economy supported by the demand. 2020 COVID, V-shaped recovery. Again, that recovery was pulled up by the demand side of the economy because people started going to the market, started spending money, and this is how we are. And youth, particularly youth, do not think much about tomorrow. They think about today's earnings and today's spending. So there is a lot of fancy consumption that has been happening. There is a lot of demand. So there is a lot of demand that has been happening. So, there is a huge business opportunities that are flourishing in the field of housing, in the field of constructions, in the field of apparels, fashion industry, textile, food industry, travel industry, tourism industry. So I do believe that these are some of the industries which are on the boom, particularly because of the growing the consumerism of our market, particularly the youth segment of the nation. They have been really contributing a lot. So in a way, they the resilience of the economy is also because of the youth power, which was not the case prior to 1991, which was not the case, right? So I believe that we are a consumption driven economy. Of course, the fundamental economics has a lot of discussions and debates whether you should be a demand driven economy or a supply driven economy. Always there is a debate. So it's more like, is it an egg first or hen first? So seed and tree. So there are a lot of contradictions. Debates are always there. Probably this is also a theoretical and historical debate. All of you can recollect that John Maynard Keynes was a champion of the demand side economics, and who are always arguing that it is a consumption side, it is a demand side, which drives the economy. And he was, his philosophy was that the government policies should support the consumers, should support the buyers, probably in the form of having lower interest rate, in the form of keeping inflation low, in the form of having them, supporting them with gainful employment and earning income. So with all these means should enhance the purchasing power of the consumers, and they should be able to go to the market and buy more and more, and that drives the economy. That was the argument of Keynesian economics, and even later, his predecessors. Contradicting to that, again, as all of you are very well aware, the world was following the Keynesian demand side economics until 1980. But it was the newly appointed president of United States, probably in the early 80s, by name Reagan. He broke this. So Reagan started arguing that, look, it is the demand side of the economics no longer works better, no longer that supports the economy. And he was giving the evidence of United States when he took over as the president of United States. United States was in terrible crisis. It was into huge debt. So the domestic economy was struggling with the falling GDP and inflation crisis. So, Reagan said it is nothing but clear reflection of the failure of Keynesian economics. Right. So he said that does not work at all. That does not work at all. So he said, the government and its policies should no longer support the consumers, support the buyers, support the demand side. Rather, the support has to be towards the supply side. So he meant to say that the government should now think of supporting the manufacturers, supporting the producers, be it agriculture, be it manufacturing, be it services, irrespective of. He said, there should be very, very lower tax rate on the production, supply. So in the entire chain of production, supply, and logistic, the tax burden should be very less. In addition to that, the producers should also be supported with a lot of incentives, with a lot of subsidies. So he said, support is to the production, that thereby you create the supply, come up with more supply in the market. So his argument was, supply creates its own demand. When the supply is supported, automatically, a lot of employment takes place. So people get the job, they earn income, and there is improved purchasing power. So supply creates its own demand. That was the argument. Of course, coming back to my point, what I'm trying to say is always there is a demand, argument, whether it is a demand that drives the economy or supply drives the economy. But he proved in United States that supply side economics works better, and thereafter, within a very short span of time, United States recovered from the crisis. And that philosophy of economics, what he implemented in US, was later on popularly called Reaganomics. And that supply side policy of Reagan started being implemented by rest of the economies, rest of the nations. And it was India that adopted this supply side economics in the year 1991 onwards. And today we are focusing more on the supply side of the economy. The government, all successive governments since 1991, are focusing more on the supply side. This is where the focus is more on the producers, so focus is more on entrepreneurs, so focus is more on the corporate sector. So through government's policy of either waiving off, giving the subsidies, there are a lot of other aspects as well. This is where there was a great debate between the RBI and the Ministry of Finance when the Raghuram Rajan was the RBI governor. So Raghuram Rajan belonged to that school which was strongly arguing that the growth of the nation is driven by the demand side. Raghuram Rajan, he said, government should focus on the demand side of the economy, and you are favoring the corporate sector, you are favoring the producers, you are giving them a lot of incentives, you are giving a lot of subsidies, you are giving them, subsidized interest rate. So you are reducing their taxes. So the policy is not on that. Rather, you focus on the people, you focus on the consumption side, reduce the tax on the consumer, encourage people to go to the market, buy more and more. This is what it's supposed to be. But Arun Jaitley, the then finance minister, he wanted RBI to cut the interest rate. Cut the interest rate. So he was saying, look, inflation is under control now. It is the right time. Why can't you reduce the interest rate? So the moment you cut the interest rate, my producers, the industrialist corporate sectors, they get the loan at a much lower rate, and the ease of business improves. So this is where there was a big tussle. Of course, ideological. Again, I'm coming back to that point. Ideological, debate and discussions. It continues to be there even today, whether it is the demand side or the supply side. But primarily, even today, primarily Indian economy is driven by the demand side. If people do not go to the market and buy the products, there is going to be a big, crisis in India, and the current economy is driven by the consumers who are the youth, and they are contributing substantially to the nation and its growth. So this is where they are proving themselves to be a dividend, an asset, a capital, for the nation. Of course, as of late all of us have been looking at a shift, that is that entrepreneurship is getting promoted. So a lot of startups are entering into the field, into the market. And India is a hub of unicorns. We are sheltering more than 100 unicorns which are globally set up. So the startup boom and the unicorns, all these are tech driven, and they are primarily driven by the youngsters, driven by the youth. See, the mindset has changed completely today. Mindset has changed completely. Earlier, the mindset was work for others. Now the mindset is work for myself and give work for others. So mindset has been changing, and this is where the youth, the educated youth, be it in urban areas, be it at tier 2, tier 3 cities, be it at rural areas, the entrepreneurship, be it may be social entrepreneurship, it may be business entrepreneurship is growing in a big way. And probably it has been contributing to about 40% of the GDP of Indian economy today. So it's a great growing, and the brain behind that is the youth who have been driving this. So I believe that they are contributing a lot. In addition to that, all of us have been watching that the digital drive that has been taking place, along with the technological shift. So youth are anchoring this, they are promoting this. So a big revolution as far as the digitization of the economy is concerned has been taking place across, be it at production, be it at the distribution channels, be it at the logistics of it, be it at the sales and marketing is concerned, or even in educational institutions, or be it at rural areas including dairy or agriculture. So there is a lot of technological upgradations and digital transformations which have been taking place. One of the clear examples of towards that is the how drones are being used, mechanization of agriculture, technological upgradations, new tools, equipment which are being used. So even the security, fencing of the agricultural land which can be monitored. So the drones can be used for fertilization, for as a crop protective, for crop protection, etc., etc. So there is a multi-purpose. So this is how technology is being upgraded and updated, and is being really fruitfully being utilized and implemented. And again, the behind this is the youth who are getting educated and who are trying to apply their mind for the cause of the society and for the cause of the nation. So on the whole, what it appears to us, in the nutshell, is that yes, the substantially huge youth population what do we have, which is more than 35%, I'm talking about the working age group, are really helping the nation in terms of attaining the next level of growth. When we talk about this, we should also be talking about the other side of the story as well. It's about the challenges, it's about the risk. When we say yes, the human population is a human capital. Yes, currently we have human capital. the human capital is giving us some returns, some dividend. Yes, the rate of return can be increased further, but at the same time, I also have the fear that this human population, which is currently human capital, which is giving us the dividend, can also turn into disaster. That risk is always there. So, there are certain specific reasons for me to have that fear, because there are a long list of challenges which we are facing. Probably, over the decades, we need to meet those challenges. If ever we have to ensure that those risks are minimized and we are optimizing in terms of the human capital. So, what are those challenges? So, what are the reasons for us to have the fear that there would be a possibility that the huge population, particularly the youth population, what do we have, can be a risk factor, can be a disaster for the nation? For me, number one is this tremendous shift in technology has been happening. So workplace requires the youth to be well equipped with certain set of skills, and the skill requirement is changing very fast. It's a very dynamic. What skill is relevant today is no longer the required skill over the next 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. This is how the real practical world is changing. It is very, very volatile today, particularly the employment market. Now, with the transition to the technology, and the technological application is increasing. Even in the past, we had that technological advancement, but the technological advancement was at a slow pace. In the past 5 years, there has been rapid change in the technology, which is being used in the process of production, and that will become even more volatile and even more faster over year after year from now. As we already discussed, technology is today being used and applied across, be it agriculture, be it manufacturing, be it services. It is being used. It has become the order of the day. So when technology is used, the skill requirements are also, being highly expected. But unfortunately, what is happening is that this is where the skills are required. But the youths who are entering into the workplace from the campuses are possessing skills only at this level. So this is where skills are demanded. This is where skills are supplied. There is a huge gap. What the industry looks for, what the real world looks for, and what the youngsters possess, there is a huge gap. And this is going to be a major issue with the time from now onwards. There is no dearth for jobs. There is no dearth for employment. We have been interacting with industry. I'm part of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Just now we had, the panel, a meeting where I was a member of the expert committee. So, this is the cause of concern, that the youth who are coming out of the campus, do not meet the requirement. Only about 20% of the youth coming out of the campus, graduates, are considered to be employable. What about the remaining 80%? What about the remaining 80%? The data also shows that about 27% of the youth, they are, 15 to 25, 27 years of old, 27% of the youth of that age category are neither in higher education nor working anywhere. It is a danger. It is a danger. So, I'll come to that part little later. It's again because of non-availability of jobs due to the poor skills. When we talk about the skills, today industry looks at three important skills. Number one, core skills, technical skills. If he is a commerce graduate, his understanding of the accountancy, his expertise in using some softwares, his expertise in dealing with the things using the system, his expertise in auditing the things, skills, core skills, technology driven skills, how comfortable he is using the system, using the software. Industry says that that they lack substantially such hands-on exercises, hands-on skills, core skills, technical skills. Number one. Number two, today, to be employable, along with the technical skills, one should also be having soft skills. When we talk about soft skills, generally we believe that soft skills is more about communication. It is not only about communication. It is much beyond that. Today, the employer looks at along with having the technical skills, core skills, does he have critical thinking capability, design thinking ability, problem solving mindset? So these are, the essential skills they are looking at the candidate who is trying to get into the market. The third, after core skills and soft skills, it's about a new addition which was not being considered in the past. It is called value skills, something strange, value skills. Here, they are looking at the value sets, value and ethical aspects of the candidate. And many employers, believe and consider that youngsters today, some of them are excellent in terms of technology, in terms of technical skills. Some of them are very good at communication and other parts of soft skills, be it critical thinking and their ability to, present the things, understand it, right? But they say that, the value and the ethical part of it is highly missing. There is a huge technical gap where employer looks at ethical aspects, and Wipro considered, identified many of its young employees parallelly working for its competitors and others who are sacked. So they say that the values, ethics are not being followed because they are dealing with a lot of confidential data, a lot of confidential information, patents. So again, it is very important that you are having trustworthy employees. So there's a huge gap. There's a huge gap. This is where a couple of years ago I worked on a project for government of Karnataka to understand the human capital of early career employees in different industrial verticals, where we could be it BFSI, manufacturing, and another 5-6 industry verticals where we could find a huge gap. This is where we had an interaction with many industry leaders, MDs, CEOs, and all that. So in my interaction, I had an hour-long meeting with Vikram Kirloskar, the then the managing director of Kirloskar, as well as he was the chairperson of CII India. So it was about just a month before his demise. I had an hour-long interaction meeting with Vikram Kirloskar. So he was saying, look, we have been meeting a lot of youngsters, but when we interview them, when we interact them, we ask a very very simple question. We talk them about the Newton's law. Many of them are not being able to talk about it. So that means that they lack fundamentals, they lack skills. So the industry is apprehensive of that. So again, there is a big question mark. Why is it so? Also had meetings and interactions with a lot of academic institutions, to understand the landscape. Yes. So, and it's, there is a huge gap, and this gap is something which is very, very critical for the youth, because industry and the employment as a whole, there are a lot of jobs that are available, but, it is because of the lack of skills, not meeting their skill requirements. Many of the youths are not being able to get in, and this is where my cause of concern is, that 27% of the youth are neither in higher education nor in employment. So this is something which is very very scary, and that should not be the case. So again, going forward, what is, there is a big question mark. We will come back to that. My second apprehension is productivity. Productivity. So it is directly linked with the skill. When I talk about productivity, there are two aspects to that: factory productivity as well as the labor productivity. In India, the productivity of the factory is one of the lowest. When you compare yourself to the many other countries, the factory productivity over there is very very high. So Indian factories are more inefficient, and that inefficiency of the Indian factories is again because of multiple reasons, and one of the reasons is because of the skill sets of the people. In case of South Korea, Turkey, Japan, the productivity, factory productivity is very very high, and its growth is also very very high. To quote, the annual growth of factory productivity in South Korea is about close to 6%, whereas in India it is less than 1%. There is a huge gap. There is a huge gap as far as the factory productivity in India and in other economies are concerned. Turkey, Japan, and many other countries are way ahead as far as the factory efficiency is concerned. Same is the case of labor efficiency in India, or the labor productivity in India is concerned. It is one of the lowest. It is one of the lowest. So, China is far better than India. Japan is far better. The labor force in Japan, Germany, they are much, much better because they are more efficient with more skill sets. They are more efficient with more ethical practices. So this is where India is lagging behind. And again, for me, it is another, cause of concern. To talk about one more aspects, whether the huge human resource, human population, what do we have, can be a disaster. It can be a disaster because we have huge unemployment. That is another cause of concern. When I talk about unemployment, my attention goes to some specific forms of unemployment. Straight away, 25% of educated youth today are not employed. It's a cause of concern. 25% of educated youth. Altogether, in the working age group, it's about 6 to 7% is the unemployment. If you take between 15 to 60, unemployment is about 6 to 7%. But you look at the youth, those who are less than 30%, 30-year-old, 15 to 30-year-old, youth, unemployment is very high. You look at the educated youth, nearly 25% of them are not educated. And that is a big cause of concern. And 27% of them are nowhere. Cause of concern. The more damage happens when you have other forms of unemployment. If you have open unemployment, manageable. But the challenge before us is huge disguised unemployment, under unemployment. They are the major problems. So, as all of us have been witnessing, there is a big case of underemployment in India. Companies are hiring, factories are hiring, people are hired for that job role for which, they are less capable. Your qualification is high, your eligibility is high, your capability is much higher than that. But you are placed at a much, much lower work segment. This is where huge, rich manpower is being wasted. There is underutilization of the human capital. Again, it is not a right, a good sign for India, where the underemployment has to be managed. We have seen, a lot of such cases where when there is recruitment for clerk or a security or a, police constable, people with post graduation, people with the doctorate applying, it is a classic, case of underemployment in India. So great concern, great concern. It is not just having the employment, having the job. Nation as a whole, a person who can contribute much better is underperforming. Country is not being able to utilize his capacity. That means that we have human capacity, human capital, but capital is not being used productively. So that is there. Disguised unemployment, all of we teach in the class that there is a disguised unemployment. Yes, literally we do have. It is there in agricultural sector, it is there in MSME, it is there in coal industry, it is there in the tourism industry, it is there in government sector. It is the best example. Government sector, hundreds of people are working, doing nothing, sitting over there. It's a huge waste of manpower, huge waste of human resource. Huge waste of human resource. So, the disguised unemployment is once again a major threat, particularly to the youth, and that negatively affects the economy and its growth. So again, my concerns over there. There is also a structural unemployment happening, as the technological transformation is taking place, and the technological transformation comes with unemployment. So I would like to connect that with the technological shifts that are being taking place, as all of us again are very well aware that artificial intelligence is being making a big entry into the field, along with the machine learning, deep learning, robotics, automations. All these things are happening in different spheres of work, different spheres of a profession. And that is going to make a tremendous change as far as the employment market is concerned. This is where the youth is going to be affected a lot. This is where we have the danger of the youth not getting the job, and it is already very, very visible. See, the AI is making a huge entry, very huge entry, and it is replacing lot of existing job roles. We are talking about financial analyst, business analyst, economic analyst, research analyst. We are talking about cyber security. We are talking about the legal advisors. We are talking about probably a lot of other employment verticals which are completely vanishing. And a classic example for this is TCS. A week ago or so, TCS has made an announcement that it is going to lay off about 12,000 of its employees because of the application of artificial intelligence at different levels of its business. So 12,000 people are losing job only in TCS. What about, there are many other industries, there are many other companies which are introducing it, applying artificial intelligence at a different, all repetitive jobs are now being, taken over by artificial intelligence. Be it logistics, be it packaging, be it, say for example, the beer industry, be it, the what do we call that, drinking water, mineral water, soft drinks, etc., the bottling, the packaging, you know and then, boxing, and then putting it to the, rest, the boxes, packing, shifting, everything is being automated, where there is no human intervention at all. Earlier it was being completely done by the human intervention. Now the human intervention is minimum or nothing. So because technology is there, they are trying to minimize the cost, and people are losing the job. What do we call structural unemployment? Now where are these youngsters going to get the job? Where are they going to get the job? There are only two ways. Number one is you upskill yourself and, find yourself relevant somewhere. Upskilling has to happen. Number two, remain yourself unemployed and probably go back, and if you have your own business, take it up, start your own business, or agriculture, or whatever it is. So these are the only two options left out. So again, it is very, very interesting to see how that, that will be taken care of. TCS is only an example with the 12,000 layoffs. There are many more companies openly, hiddenly are coming up with the layoff programs, with the automation, with robotics, with the AI. They do not want manpower to intervene and implement. So again, my concern is youths are going to be unemployed, but again, having less skills, where are they going to fit in? Again, the cause of concern. So one of the recent CMI reports say that, annually there are about 12 million job aspirants coming out of the campuses. 12 million people coming out of the campuses, who are the job aspirants. As of now, the nation creates about 2 million jobs. What about the remaining 10 million? What about the remaining 10 million? Particularly when they lack skill sets. So, recently the World Bank has, warned the world, particularly the India, that about 69% of your current jobs are going to vanish. They are going to be redundant, vanish. No longer they will exist in the future. So there is a big change in the job market. It's all because of AI. There are many people in the past 2 years who spoke that, including the industry leaders, that yes, AI we are implementing, but that will not have an impact on the market. That will not affect the employment. Definitely not. This is what they were arguing. But silently and quietly implementation happens. People are losing the jobs. Right. So my another concern to save, is that there is a changing demography as well. The changing demography, when I say birth rate is a declining, there is a fall in the birth rate, right? So birth rate is less than 1%. Fertility rate is also less than 2%. So, you may say that, it is good. Yes, it is, it is good that it controls the population and all, but there is a great danger associated with that. Now, the current, 0 to 14, in that age category of 0 to 14, there is only 12% of the population, which was 24% a decade ago. That means that the child population has seen a big fall. child population 0 to 14 age category was at 24% and today it is at 12%. That is a concern.
जरा लूडो में हरा के आता हूँ, लूडो में हरा के आता हूँ, सोनी जी बहुत उतावले हो रहे।
They are going to be the next youth. They are going to be the next youth. All of us have seen the demographic transition of China. China with the huge population drove its economy for 3 decades. Since 2013-14, China economy is slowing.
अभी बंद मत करना, चाबी वहीं रखिए।
Since 2013-14, China economy is slowing down. The major reason for the slowdown of China economy is changing youth population. Particularly the youth population. It has come down drastically. As all of us are aware, China has adopted the policy of one child or no child 30 years back. And today, China is facing crisis because of that. As all of us are very, very well aware, China is known for manufacturing. China toys are globally known. China is a manufacturing hub as far as toys are concerned. Today, several manufacturing units, many of the toy manufacturing units in China have closed. The reason is children are not there. Child population is very less in China. And many other manufacturing units are closing because youth population has come down drastically. In China, the consumption market has fallen, demand has fallen. That is negatively impacting its growth and its economy. If India ignores that aspect, India is going to be another China over the next 20 years or so, where the child population will fall, the future youth population will be less. And when the youth population declines in India, the dividend what we are enjoying today is going to be the disaster. There will not be fancy consumption. People will not be buying cars. People will not be buying textile. There will not be demand for apparels, food, travel, tourism, the way it is currently today. Another danger associated with changing demography is that it is strongly predicted that by 2050, the median age in India will increase to 38%. Today, we are a young nation. That is a dividend for the nation. We are a young nation. In Japan and Germany, the average age is 47 years. UK and US 40 years. China 38 years. Whereas in India, it is 28 years. So that's the reason why we say India is a young nation with huge youth population. But it is predicted that by 2050, that age will increase to 38 years and more than half of the population will be the dependent population in India. That means that we are aging with the time. We are aging. China is aging. Japan is aging. Europe, entire Europe is aging. UK is aging. All their markets have collapsed. Same might happen in India as well if that aging is not handled well. So by 2050, it is predicted that we will have huge aged population. Aged population means a dependent population. They are not going to have fancy consumption, no tourism. They are not promoting tourism, travel. They are not promoting, the fancy consumption in the market. We need to understand. Probably the growth will be healthcare sector. Right. So another threat, just a minute, a couple of minutes, I will closing and I'm aware of the time. The other danger, again, associated with the demography is urbanization. Currently, 30% of the population is living in urban areas. By 2050, it is expected that 50% of the population will be in urban areas. If urbanization takes place at that speed, what are the consequences? Are we ready? Are we ready for that migration and that transition with needful infrastructure that is required in urban areas? Be it housing, be it roads, be it other amenities, water, sanitation, security. Are we ready with those, needful infrastructure in urban areas for another 20% of the rural people migrating to urban population? What about the rural areas? What will happen to agriculture? What will happen to MSMEs? What will happen to our traditional occupations? Again, there will be, tremendous change that is going to happen. So again, that is, my concern. The last point which I would like to talk about here is lifestyle diseases. We have huge population, youth population, and the youth population is getting educated. Yes, agreed. But my concern is there is a lifestyle disease attached with the youth population, which is being, time to time raised by international organizations like World Health Organization, the World Bank, and many other agencies. Large proportion of the youth today, because of their lifestyle, are getting into BP, getting into diabetes, getting into obesity, getting into addictions. And nearly 25% of the youth are suffering from hypertensions. So I'm talking about the quality of the youth today. Quality of the youth is deteriorating, health-wise is deteriorating because of the lifestyle diseases, which was not the case in the past. So we are trying to westernize ourselves in terms of lifestyle, in terms of culture, but that is negatively affecting the health, that is negatively affecting, the productivity of the youth. And there is a big question mark over, their health standards. And if that is the case, again, they are going to be dependents, or their productivity will be much, much lesser. So for a nation, if the population has to be a dividend, and that population has to be healthy, that population has to be highly educated, highly skilled, meeting the needs of today's market. Yes, we have made a tremendous progress as far as the economy and the growth is concerned. And now if that growth has to sustain and become a Vikasit Bharat by 2047, going forward, there are a lot of challenges before us. As we discussed, in the past 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so. So this is where I say that currently there is a dividend. We are reaping the dividend of our population, but there is also a possibility that a part of that can also convert into disaster, provided appropriate policy measures are not taken. This is where the country as a whole, we as academics need to work, come up with appropriate policy directions to the government, and government can come up with, needful policies, and we can also come up with, appropriate education policy where, ensure that the youngsters coming out of the campus are highly skilled and are readily employable, right? So there are different levels where the academic institutions and academicians, can pitch in and ensure that, the chances of disaster is minimized, and, we will be continuing to reap the benefits of the huge population what do we have. Thank you. And open to discussion.